Hello, hello. It seems like posting online is the modern day gold rush. It is no longer acceptable to work in private. It feels like you have to announce everything you're working on to seem legit to others. So, it's time for an update on how the comic is going. This one panel I pretty much finished up on, and this is what the storyboard for the panel looks like. I learned that I need to add a bit more detail to this storyboard for the smaller features, like the characters' faces and hands. It was very hard to use this storyboard after I finished coloring in all the big parts, and I realized there wasn't enough detail to use as a reference on the smaller parts. I'll keep this in mind when working on future storyboards. This is another panel that I'm working on, and I had to draw a lot of cars. Making a comic is forcing me to work on my background illustration skills because I would not usually draw a car unless it was relevant to something my characters were doing or it was a part of the environment they're in. I'm not even all the way satisfied, but I can't stall on each panel for too long if I want to get this done. Ideally, I want to work on these panels more quickly, but now let's move on. There's a lot of pressure to post online in the modern age. Posting online is marketed as freedom, but I'm not entirely sure that's true. I don't know if freedom exists as long as we live in a world of other people and are expected to live under certain expectations. Although, having more freedom than you currently have is definitely possible. I'm interested in societal expectations that impact human behavior. I have observed many online conversations, and these are thoughts that have crossed my mind, and I have also seen and heard others mention. I think about how these pressures influence how people think of themselves and how hard they fight to make a name for themselves in this world. It feels like if you don't post, then your social life and real life suffers. I have taken multiple social media breaks for various reasons, and it does have a negative impact on relationships in my real life and online life. People take offense to you not being there as their audience no matter the state of your mental health. That's kind of why I prefer to have strangers on my art accounts because I don't want to expect my loved ones' support and wonder why I didn't get it. I don't want that pressure on top of an already semi-stressful task where I'm wondering how my art is being perceived. In the world we live in, it is not acceptable to only try to achieve your goals in private if you want any kind of success at all in any field. It's like the whole if a tree falls in a forest doesn't make a sound saying. If I don't post what I'm working on, does it even matter? Does how I'm perceived change? In this current day, it feels like if you don't post on social media, then you don't exist in this world. There is a large portion of my art journey that I've gone through privately and was content with that. It's rewarding enough on its own. But then there have also been many moments where I feel uncomfortable because there's a lot of pressure to post about it online, especially if you want to make art a part of your career path. I have somewhat formed a toxic relationship with Instagram because of this mentality, because it kind of makes posting feel like a chore rather than like positive self-expression. We see this with literally any industry though. Like, we're seeing people from different jobs posting online as well that are not even art related. There's this huge pressure to post online to seem legit in your field of work. I'm trying hard in private, but not in public. Are you describing yourself correctly? What measuring stick are you using to judge your current traits? I'm describing myself incorrectly, but there is truth in it. For example, it's not that I lack discipline, but that I am disciplined in private actions to achieve my goals, while I'm not as disciplined in public actions to achieve my goals. If you're scared to try to put yourself out there, it says something about the environment or environments you came up in. People are competitive, and one way to thin out the competition is to plant seeds of doubt and uncertainty in others. To convince them that they are inherently wrong or flawed and that it cannot be overcome because that's just innately who they are. Or to make the environment feel hostile or unwelcoming. Another way is to ridicule every little thing about them and erode their sense of self, or to even ignore them. Who would you be if you always had positive experiences? Would you be a stronger, more confident person, or would you have crumbled at your first negative feedback because you never experienced that before? We'll never know. I don't know why, but some people flourish despite negative situations, and others break down for a while. Perhaps they derive power from elsewhere. What did it take to even get here, to be able to express myself? It took a lot of introspection and writing in journals. It took having a vision and working towards that vision. It took sitting with uncomfortable feelings. It was sitting in the joy of exhilarating feelings of creating something, of achieving something I wasn't sure I could, hitting a new level. It took being simultaneously aware of the qualities I did and did not currently have. Realizing that time is passing when it came to my birthdays, and me aging. Me aging was the biggest catalyst because with each year, it felt like permission that I did not have before. Like when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to show as much agency as I wanted to. But getting older made me feel like it was now or never. Also feeling the injustice of people whose platforms spread negativity because they didn't doubt themselves as much and assumed their voice deserved to be heard and that their work deserved to be seen. At first, it was demoralizing, but then it was negatively inspiring. Another thing that helped was listening to others' journeys and their progression. There's value in documenting things even if it feels trivial at the time. Apparently, promoting yourself is bad in a world where we see hundreds of ads a day from big corporations. Funnily enough, people who have less are looked down on for not having enough, when if they were able to promote their skill set, they might actually be able to have enough. To toxic people, you trying to achieve a certain goal and live a better life is seen as selfish when if you succeed, it might actually make you less of a burden on others. There's also shame for wanting support when that's how humanity has even made it this far, by supporting each other. The same people shaming you for hoping for support want support themselves and sometimes expect a lot from you when they don't even want to give in return. Internal changes versus external changes. Internal improvements feel great, but external improvements seem to get way more attention and respect. I think that's why so many people are obsessed with glow-up culture. Also with markers of prestige like school and work. It's like your identity outside of that doesn't matter and it's low-key dehumanizing. It's hard to feel proud of how you've internally changed for the better when people are so obsessed with your external accomplishments. They'll never be able to see just how far you've come because their attention is focused solely on what's on the person and not what's in them. No wonder people feel so disconnected from each other, and there's claims of this generation feeling so lonely. Instead of asking others if there's anything they enjoy doing, we are asking about school and work at social events, when those have been constantly reported as a significant stressor in many people's lives. And I say this as someone who actually does this on autopilot. Like, whenever I'm around, like, the younger members of my family, like, the first thing I ask them is, like, how's school? And I feel like, afterwards, I think to myself, like, oh, wow, I could have, like, asked something more interesting to them. Like, what are your hobbies? And stuff like that. Honestly, there's nothing inherently wrong with asking about school and work, but not everyone wants to talk about that, especially if so many hours of their life is spent on that and they are finally at an unrelated event to have fun. It's one thing if someone brings it up on their own, it's another to repeatedly bring it up when that person themselves never does. Isn't that a clear sign of disinterest in that topic? Another topic I want to discuss is letting shame stop and start your progress. The shame of trying battling the shame of not trying. How dare you try to achieve this goal when there's others suffering, versus how dare you waste your potential and not use all the tools you are privileged enough to have to achieve your goals. There's been times that I've been scared to post because I didn't want others to feel bad or upset or annoyed. Because there's been times in my life where, like, if I was happy about something or something good happened, like, others would be upset, and I constantly felt like I had to manage other people's emotions. But I'm also scared of wasting what I do currently have. Even if it's not the most privileged position to be in, it is still a type of privilege to live my life. I don't want the shame of wasting the resources I do have and seeming ungrateful. So basically, this is a mental battle on top of the natural friction that already comes with being creative, or really the natural friction that exists in life in general. There's different schools of thought competing for dominance. Another dangerous mentality to have is feeling like others are just better at communication and socializing than you, and that's just it, when you don't know what's really going on in those people's minds. You don't know the trial and error they've been through to even have those character traits. Maybe they naturally had those skills, maybe they built them. It doesn't really matter, because if you also want those skills, you're going to have to practice them and work on them as consistently as possible. Feeling like others are more lovable and accepted than you is kind of a defeatist mentality. Someone liking or loving you isn't the craziest thing that could happen in this world. Another reason people fear putting their work out there is because it can be stolen and others can profit off of it without the original creator reaping the benefits of their own idea. This is a risk you have to take, as unfortunate as that is, as uncomfortable as that is. If the idea is a strong part of your brand identity, it will be clear over time. I'm not trying to downplay how weird it feels to be copied, but it's kind of like a shame to sacrifice your own goals instead of acting on them. You're just gonna have to do your best to protect yourself. Something else I want to share is just like others influence us, we also influence others with our actions. So we can also fear being seen as a copycat as well, just because our interests and or our experiences happen to overlap with other creators. A silly example I have is one time in high school, my parents bought me a hat, and I was so scared to wear it because someone else had a similar hat, and I didn't want them to think that I was copying them. But it was winter. It's normal to want to wear a winter hat. So sometimes the whole copying thing can get into like ridiculous territory. Also, inspiration is okay and actually good for the progression of humanity. Blatant copying, not so much. Everything you do has a ripple effect, no matter how insignificant you may think you are. If you stagnate, you are low-key poisoning the metaphorical water that we all live in. You may wonder what this has to do with making my comic, but the reality is, mentality matters and it can influence the quality of the projects you're working on, so it's important to get your mental health sorted out the best you can so that you can produce better work. Things like shame, guilt, and discomfort with showing up publicly can definitely negatively influence the progression of a project. So addressing any emotions that come up is also an important part of the creative process. There's a level of uncertainty that comes with working on a new project. You have to try to the best of your ability, but you don't get to know how it plays out immediately. You can only guess. You can set intentions, but the result is out of your hands. The effort and the promotion of the effort is your responsibility. The same goes for me. The effort and the promotion of the effort is my responsibility. The only certainty I have is that my past actions have gotten me this far. I'm so glad that the past version of me kept trying. I now get to build on top of my past efforts. Thank you very much for watching and listening. I hope this was a valuable message for you.